about how to fix a wet basement. I did a survey several weeks ago of my newsletter list asking the subscribers, what they would like me to talk about. And it just so happens I have a consult coming up. I do a lot of consults over the phone. I do some in person here locally. And this person has got a wet basement. Many people, thousands, tens of thousands of people do. And they want to know how to fix them. What's the best way to fix a wet basement? All right, so one of the things I bring to the table is that, and I know with these live vertical videos, it's very hard for me to show you stuff. I'm sorry, I'm just a talking head, but that's pretty much all I can do. I don't have we don't have a $100,000 video studio to do these in. I'm just using the YouTube app. All right, so anyway, the wet basements. The first thing you need to understand is my college degree is in geology. I studied geology, and it just so happens one of the areas that I focused on was hydrogeology. And hydrogeology is simply the study of groundwater. And using this knowledge that I got in college, I was able to understand how to build houses so that the basements would never be wet. How to make sure water never got in the basement. So first of all, the first thing to think about is understand that a basement, really all it is, it's really not much different than your local outdoor public swimming pool, right? I mean, the only difference is that it's got a building on top of it. So a basement, if you plugged up the floor drain and you put a fire hose in it, you'd have a swimming pool, all right? So you're constantly battling that water. Brian, how you doing? Hey, Jason, how you doing? Good. Am I married? That's nice to know information. I love the comments. All right. So anyway, basement's it's just a swimming pool, but the trouble is you don't want it to be a swimming pool. You want it to be dry. All right. So the first thing to do if you want to fix your wet basement is you need to go outside and you need to make sure that all the water that comes off your roof that it gets directed far away from the house. All too often, in many of the consults that I do, I ask people to send me photos of the outside of the house, and I can clearly see that the gutters and downspouts, they just drop the water, and the downspout, the water just ends up on a block right around the house. So think about when it rains. When you have like a standard ranch house that might be 2,000 square feet, and you have, think of the roof area that you have, if you have like a 1-inch rainfall, you do the math, and you might be dropping 1,000 or 1,500 gallons of water around your house. And so think how much water weighs. It pushes down, it soaks into the soil, and it's trying to find a way to get into your house. So if you eliminate roof water out of the equation and pipe that to the lowest point of your lot or to your city stormwater system, whatever it might be, that's going to help. That's the first step. The second step, uh, I gotta answer this question, all right? From this one comment. What is the secret of happy marriage life? It's so simple. It's so easy. Just, just when your spouse says jump, you need to say how high. It's really, and where do I land? That's all you need to do. There's nothing about this is hard, all right? Just pick your battles, all right? And you keep your spouse happy. The old saying, right? Happy wife, happy life, all right? So nothing about a relationship's hard. All right, so let's get back to wet basements. I'm not a marriage counselor. Anyway, I do love the comments. I'm sorry. I just love them. Okay, so we've got the roof water away from the house. Now, here's what you need to know about geology. So here's what happens when it rains. First of all, understand, I could have made a drawing about this. Think about soil. So if you were to dig around your house, the soil is divided into profiles, and we usually call it the A, B, and C. So the A horizon is way up top by the grass, and that's called the topsoil. Topsoil has a lot of air in it, all right? A lot of air. So that's why when it rains, if you take a garden hose even and you get some water on the grass, it disappears. It's like, whoa, where did it go? All right, so it's soaked into the topsoil, much like water would soak into a dry sponge. All right, the farther you go down into the soil, generally it becomes more compact. Many parts of the United States have a clay, a very rich clay, both topsoil and subsoil. So what do we use clay for? All right, if you're a potter, you already know this. All the pots, all the plates, all the cups and saucers in your home, they're made out of clay, all right? So clay is a really, really interesting mineral, all right? And it is, they call it clay mineralogy. So clay is why ponds don't leak. In other words, if you have a garden pond or you have a pond out in a farm, generally it's got clay in the lining, and that's why the water does not leak out of the pond. So think about this. If your subsoil is clay and the water comes down, and here, let's just say my hand right here is the horizon between the A here and the B here that is very clay rich. The water comes down, hits this clay, and it can't go any farther. I mean, it's tough. So what does it start to do? So if your ground around your house is tilted, which most ground is, the water hits this clay and it starts to move down slope, all right, across the clay, all right, across the top of the clay. So that means, so now, I know it's a little disjointed. Yeah, by the way, hit the like button if you like what you're hearing. Do a comment, and those help the algorithm. All right, so think of how a gutter on a house roof works, right? What does a gutter do? So here you've got a sloping surface, right? Just like the clay in your ground. So the rain comes down the roof, and here's the gutter right here. My finger's the gutter. The water comes down the roof, runs into the gutter, and now what does the gutter do? The water flows through the gutter, eventually goes to a downspout, and if you've done your job right, you've piped that water to the lowest spot on your land. Well, imagine if you put a gutter in the ground. How cool is that? So how easy is that to do? So I call it a linear French drain, and all you have to do is basically dig a 6-inch wide, maybe 2-foot deep trench that's on the high side of your property, meaning if your house is on a hill and the water's, remember, if you've got a half a mile of hill above you or a quarter mile, you've got thousands of gallons of water that are just slowly seeping through the ground coming towards your foundation. So imagine if 6 feet away from the house, we dug this trench, put in some rounded gravel that's the size of grapes or walnuts, no sand in it, no sand on the gravel, put in a perforated drain pipe, and maybe made that an L shape or a U shape to surround the house, and then extend those pipes beyond the front of the house to where they exit at daylight. Then what happens? The water comes through the soil, comes down the hill, hits that. Once we put the perforated drain pipe in, we've got to fill the trench all the way up to the top with more gravel and take it all the way to the top. Eventually grass will grow in it. You won't even see it. But we want that water to come down, hit that gravel, drop into the pipe, and then it runs around the house. And remember, water always wants to take the path of least resistance. So it would much rather flow through the pipe than it would to continue to push through the ground and try to make it to your house. It doesn't want to do that. So you install one of these linear French drains, problem solved. All right, there's some really bad information out here on YouTube. I really don't want to name the channel by name, but all he talks about are these things. And he's a big advocate of putting geotextile fabric, and he says to line the trenches with it. Wrap the pipe in a sock. Do not do any of that. Do not do any of that. You don't need it. All right, here's why. Once again, that gentleman obviously never took a hydrogeology class in college like I did. So have you ever thought about well water? All right. So think about wells. It could be a shallow well, or it could be a deep well like I have here at my own home. How is it that water in a well is clear? Have you ever thought about that? All right. Think about what happens when it rains, like a really big rainstorm, and let's say you have a creek or a stream by your home. Before the storm came, and I'm not talking about rivers, I'm just talking about a stream. What color is the water in the stream? It's clear, isn't it? That's interesting, isn't it? You know, like a brook or a stream, the water's clear. I mean, you could scoop it up in a glass. I'm not saying drink it, it could have bacteria in it, but it's clear. But when it rains, and there's a violent rainstorm, all of a sudden that creek rises up and the water is muddy. All right, where'd the mud come from? Why is it muddy? What happens 24 hours after the storm's gone? The water's clear again. So the mud, where the mud came from, is simple. Up on the surface, up in that topsoil, or where there's bare ground, the raindrops come down, boom, boom, boom. They're like bullets. They hit the ground, a lot of energy. They raise up, they get some of that silt and mud in suspension, and the water runs over land, or it runs into a storm sewer, whatever, and it makes it to the stream. That's why the water is muddy. But as that water travels through the soil, all right, think about this. The topsoil layer acts like a filter. It's no different than an air filter in your car, an air filter in your furnace that filters out all of those particles. That's why well water is clear, all right? So you don't need to put a geotextile fabric around the trench. You don't need to put a sock on the pipe, because what those are made for, think about this, those fabrics are meant to block silt. So if for some odd reason silt is in the water and it clogs up that filter fabric, the water can't make it into the French drain. That's where that guy's all wrong. All right. So let's see here. I'm trying to catch up on some of these comments. Let's see. Deep in the sand. What is it about? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Don't know what that means. Sorry. Go eat some food if you're hungry. All right. That's all right. So there must be some bad. I did this solid pipe and I could not get 4 feet in the ground. So I have to disconnect the pipe and downspout before running. Yeah, just you got to get the roof water out of the equation. So here's what you don't want to do. A lot of companies talk about putting in these systems inside where they come in, break up part of your basement floor, and they put this pipe and drain stuff in your house. And then they put a sump pump in. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's just capture all the water outside. Just capture it outside and pipe it around the house. I've helped people install thousands of these systems. They've worked all the time. There's testimonials on my website. I'll tell you a quick story about one that was locally here. I helped this bed and breakfast gentleman here in Franklin, New Hampshire, about, gosh, I guess it's been 12 years ago. He had an old house, and there was a big hillside above him, and he had so much water coming into the basement of his house, this bed and breakfast. I saw it. I actually was there. They had to put wood pallets in the basement. So you know how high a wood pallet is, about 4.5 inches. And there would be 3 inches of water flowing through the pallets in the basement most of the year. It's like a river coming through this guy's basement. So he did what I said, but we actually dug a bigger trench. We brought in a bigger excavator. He had enough fall across his property that he could take the trench down below his basement floor. So he only had to go down about 6.5 feet. But we took the trench down 6.5 feet, went all the way through his backyard. It sloped. We put in 2 of the perforated pipes, filled the trench around his house with the gravel, and the water stopped immediately. His basement has been bone dry ever since the day we installed it. So these systems work. It's really pretty simple. That's how to fix a wet basement. is you stop the water before it gets to the house. It's that simple. Um, let's see. I'm going to give it a shot because you know what? My aunt, you don't know who my aunt was. My aunt was one of the top experts in phonetics back in the United States back in the 1960s. You can actually still see her book on Amazon. The name of the book is Professor Phonics Gives Sound Advice. Pretty cool title, right? Sound. All right. When you talk, you make a sound. All right, so let's give it a try. Sayed Ibi Tabat. See, I would pronounce that. She would tell me to say Tabatabi. Tabatabi. So I'm giving it my best shot. Saeed Ibi Tabatabi. So that's the best I can do. Might not have it perfect. Gave it a good shot though. All right, so that's really all I want to talk about. I'm trying to keep these live broadcasts to about 15 minutes or so. If you have questions, if you need help about a wet basement, just go to my Ask the Builder website. I'm the Ask the Builder guy. If you haven't figured that out, go to the Ask Tim page. I can actually draw a plan for you. I can actually draw a plan of how I would put in the pipe around your home. I provide that service. So any way I can help you, let me know. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to my free Ask the Builder newsletter. And if you've got any ideas for future live broadcasts like this, I'd love to hear them. Go ahead and leave a comment after we upload the video, or leave a comment at the Ask Tim page. I'd love to help you any way I can. That's my job. That's why I'm Ask the Builder. All right, so thanks very much for watching. More live broadcasts coming soon. Appreciate it.